Does Christianity harm society? Is abandoning Christianity a good idea? Have you ever asked yourself where human rights and values come from? Join me as we use Tom Holland's book, Dominion, to answer these questions. Tom Holland has written a book that's not just about the history of Christianity, but how Christianity shaped the modern Western culture. He calls this influence paradoxical, because sometimes the Christian church failed to live up to its ideals, and other times it was divided over what those ideals even were. Despite his respect for certain aspects of Christianity, Holland doesn't apologize for the church and doesn't claim personal faith. But here's the main point. Tom Holland's book, Dominion: How the Christian Revolution Remade the World, is incredibly important. The subtitle explains the main idea. Holland argues that many of these values and priorities in today's secular culture actually originated from Christianity. Even though many educated people have moved away from Christianity and religion is declining, Christianity's influence remains strong. We can't criticize the church's failures without drawing on Christian teachings and beliefs, showing just how deeply ingrained they are in our society. Holland's book, though lengthy at 542 pages, is easy to understand. It explores an idea first put forth by Friedrich Nietzsche. Friedrich Nietzsche observed that even as European intellectuals rejected Christianity and embraced science, they still held on to certain beliefs. They believe in human rights, equal dignity for all, and the importance of caring for the less fortunate. They value love and forgiveness, and they upheld moral absolutes, condemning the oppression of the powerless. Christianity has such an enduring, pervasive influence that we cannot condemn the church for its failures without invoking Christian teachings and beliefs in order to do so. However, Nietzsche argued that these ideals were solely Christian in origin. They didn't emerge in Eastern cultures, and the Greek and Romans initially found them absurd. Holland illustrates how the shame and honor cultures of ancient pagan Europe, including the Anglo-Saxons, Franks, and Germans, viewed Christian principles like forgiving enemies and valuing the poor and weak as impractical for society. Chinese history doesn't have the concept of human rights, nor does it have the concept of individual rights. Japan before the Meiji Restoration was governed by various systems of governance, including feudalism during certain periods, where rights and privileges were often granted based on social status and hierarchy. And for obvious reasons, we're not going to discuss India's caste system. Concepts like human rights, equal dignity for all, and the importance of caring for the less fortunate only made sense within a worldview centered on a single, personal God who created humanity in his image and sent a savior to die in sacrificial love. According to Nietzsche, if we reject the existence of the Christian God and believe in a universe governed by chance and survival of the fittest, then moral absolutes disappear. Life becomes solely about power and dominance, not love. This, Nietzsche claimed, is the inevitable path once one truly accepts the absence of the Christian God. When Nietzsche made this argument, he was dismissed as a madman. The liberal, secular world continued to spin out the narrative that only when we move away from the dominance of the church and puts superstition and bigotry behind us, was the modern world able to end slavery and discover human rights and empirical science, as well as sexual freedom. Over the past 50 years, prominent academics have been gradually confirming Nietzsche's assertions. Brian Tierney from Cornell University, for instance, demonstrated that the concept of universal human rights and the equality for all individuals didn't originate from Enlightenment philosophers, but rather from Christian canon lawyers in the 12th century. Their principles were grounded in Genesis and the belief in humanity's creation in the image of God. Kyle Harper's research has further supported Nietzsche's claims. He has demonstrated that the notion of individual bodily autonomy, leading to the necessity of sexual consent, was a revolutionary idea introduced by Christianity. Historians, including Tom Holland, recount how Julian, the last pagan emperor of Rome, attempted to revive paganism amidst the rising tide of Christianity. However, pagan societies held disdain for the marginalized, whereas Christians dedicated themselves to caring for the sick, orphaned, and impoverished, even abandoned infants. This selfless charity set Christianity apart, drawing the masses towards Christ. Other scholars, including Tom Holland, showed that the birth of modern science was dependent on a Christian view of the world as real, not an illusion as held in the East, one created by a single mind to work on universal laws. Protestant reformers promoted the idea of universal education, arguing that literacy was essential for individuals to read and interpret the Bible independently. As a result, Protestant regions often established schools and educational institutions to provide basic literacy and religious instruction to both boys and girls. This emphasis on education for all contributed to the increase in literacy rates across the Protestant territories in Europe. One of Christianity's most significant contributions to healthcare is the establishment of hospitals. While there were some institutions providing medical care in ancient civilizations, it was largely the Christian church that formalized and institutionalized the concept of caring for the sick and needy. The earliest hospitals in Europe were often associated with monasteries and religious orders, which provided care for the sick, the poor, travelers, and pilgrims. The church stance on slavery is complex. Europeans justified conquest and colonization with their Christian beliefs, and parts of the church were involved in the African slave trade. However, historians generally agree on 2 points. Firstly, slavery was widespread globally, so where did the notion of its immorality come from? It was rooted in Christian teachings, like Gregory of Nyssa's interpretation of the Bible emphasizing the image of God in every person. Secondly, while emancipation happened gradually, Christian groups like the Quakers led the charge for the abolition of slavery. Holland argues that even when Christianity is twisted to justify oppression, it ultimately empowers the oppressed. Throughout history, Europeans used their Christian beliefs to assert superiority over those they conquered, whether it's the Tenochtitlan, Massachusetts, or the Transvaal. However, paradoxically, Christianity also provided the colonized and enslaved with a powerful voice. This paradox is profound. No other conquerors have built empires in the name of a man tortured to death by colonial authorities, nor have they embraced as a symbol of power as ambivalent as Christianity, which challenges the very concept of power itself. Holland's book contains numerous captivating stories and insightful observations. One such revelation is that the notion of hope and belief in historical progress towards greater justice and peace is distinctly Christian. Additionally, the concept of the separation of church and state, unfamiliar in other cultures, originated with Augustine and is based on Christianity's cultural flexibility, which does not mandate specific dress, diet, lifestyle, or work. Moreover, Holland suggests that movements like #MeToo mirror the original Christian sexual revolution, which advocated for gender equality in sexual standards. Towards the end of his book, Holland poses a crucial question that lingers throughout. If humanistic values originated from Christian beliefs, will they lose their significance as society moves away from these core beliefs? Holland puts it like this: if secular humanism derives not from reason or from science, but from the distinctive course of Christianity's evolution, a course that, in the opinion of growing numbers in Europe and America, has left God dead, then how are its values anything more than the shadow of a corpse? What are the foundations of its morality, if not a myth? Holland leaves the question hanging. This is not asking if individual secular people can be highly moral and unselfishly committed to others. Of course they can. It is asking whether, on the whole, an entire society can stay committed to values after abandoning the beliefs about the world on which those values were based. Some, such as Christian Smith in his book Atheist Overreach, and Charles Taylor in both Sources of the Self and A Secular Age, doubted that these values will be able to endure as Christianity weakens. Robert Bellah in Habits of the Heart makes the same argument. Can we keep believing in humanistic values if we stop believing in God? Staying committed to being good might sometimes mean sacrificing our own interest, and sacrificing ourselves often requires some higher purpose or motivation, like believing in God. But in modern times, we rejected the idea of a higher purpose, which means our commitment to being good is fragile. Can we keep being good without God? These doubts are serious, and here's why it feels uncomfortable. We worry that these ideals we value most may not be enough. I don't see any way around this worry. It might always be there. In each chapter, Holland dispels myths about both Christianity and secularism. He doesn't excuse the church for its many shortcomings, nor does he allow secular individuals to believe that their values are solely based on reason and science. By challenging both sides, Holland encourages more productive and grounded conversations in the future. You've reached the end of this video, and today's book recommendation is Dominion by Tom Holland. It's worth noting that even though Tom Holland is not a Christian, recent appearances in events and podcasts suggest that he's unlikely to convert anytime soon. However, contemporary thinkers like him are gradually reconsidering Christianity, recognizing its significant contributions to our world, particularly as society grapples with the challenges posed by postmodernism and ideologies such as wokeness. Once again, this is Michael signing off. I'll see you guys in the next video. God bless you guys. Bye.